nuclear holds for the African continent. Let's remember that. Throughout the day, let us keep the code in mind that as we explore the multifaceted landscape of nuclear energy in South Africa. And before we proceed, I'd like to express my gratitude to our speakers and panelists whose insights and expertise will undoubtedly enrich our minds today. Esteemed participants, it is with great honor that I invite the Deputy Minister of Electricity and Energy, Ms. Samantha Graham-Murray, to grace the stage. And
chairpersons of state-owned entities, the CEOs of state-owned entities, executives of state-owned entities, captains of industry. Good morning. It is a great honor to have this opportunity to welcome you all to our Nuclear Energy Summit. It's an even greater honor to do so as part of the South African Government of National Unity in the newly created Ministry of Energy and Electricity, headed up by Dr. Ramokgopa. The scope of this ministry has been substantially expanded and now incorporates not only traditional energy fields such as electricity and nuclear, but also the just energy transition and Eskom. This means that our energy sector is now housed under one overarching ministry, ensuring that we are now imbued with the power to coordinate the sector holistically and with a singular focus. As many of you know, nuclear still carries somewhat of a stigma. Much of this is due to ignorance, perpetuated by government programs shrouded in secrecy, manned by scientists in hazmat suits, and the fear generated through the Cold War era of the total destruction of the planet as a result of an all-out nuclear war. It is up to all of us to change these perceptions. This summit is the first leg of that process, and given South Africa's expertise and commitment to nuclear energy over the years, this summit is a key engagement with the nuclear industry in South Africa that we hope will become a more regular feature of our annual agenda. No discussion of nuclear energy would be complete without recognizing the team at Eskom that was responsible for the 20-year extension on Unit 1 at Koeberg. It was a mammoth task with an excellent outcome that we hope will be repeated next year for Unit 2. These life extensions are also a testament to the vision and foresight of Minister Ramokgopa in his mission to decisively tackle load shedding, and which has culminated in yet another victory for bringing stability to the power grid and providing hope for our economy. Ladies and gentlemen, over 160 days without load shedding is something to be applauded. But the work doesn't stop there, and while we continue to refine the IRP 2023, we have to keep up the momentum of fulfilling the objectives of the Integrated Resource Plan of 2019, which sets out a requirement of 2,500 megawatts of nuclear power to ensure the stability of South Africa's power grid, in turn driving the reindustrialization of our economy and the promise of economic growth that leads to job creation. Despite the urgency of this, our ministry is not going to compromise on public participation, adherence to statutory and regulatory requirements, and openness and transparency in decision-making, procurement, and the implementation of our new nuclear build. This informed the decision of the Minister to restart the nuclear new build program with strict adherence to process and participation and in collaboration with industry stakeholders and experts. So while the purpose of this summit is to get all the industry parties in the nuclear industry together and discuss nuclear energy as part of our energy mix, it is also part of the Minister's orientation and induction program and consultation with stakeholders about the role of nuclear in the just energy transition. There is global acceptance of nuclear energy as an integral part of the solution to mitigate the impact of climate change. We therefore need to work together to ensure that nuclear energy becomes an important part of the just energy transition. Ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that nuclear is a critical component of South Africa's energy mix, offering a low-carbon, reliable source of energy that can contribute significantly to the country's energy security and climate goals. I'm extremely excited to hear the inputs from our speakers and panelists, from whose insights and knowledge we hope to formulate the solutions to taking South Africa's nuclear program forward. To paraphrase environmentalist Stuart Brand, we have much less to fear in reality from the current nuclear power industry than we think, and much more to gain from new and planned reactor designs than we realize. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, our theme today is decoding nuclear, understanding the science, the safety and sustainability of nuclear energy. That is our purpose, that is our theme, and I have the great privilege of handing this theme to all of you as we embark on a new era in the South African nuclear story. I thank you.
Thank you, TM. You know, when I do my videos, I always encourage South Africans to take charge and own these power plants that we have, that the Marokani. And I own Koeberg, by the way. So I've allocated Koeberg to myself. So whatever is happening there, you know, I know more about what's happening in Koeberg than what's happening in my kitchen. So take that in mind. And having said that, can we please play a video of Koeberg nuclear power plant? And having said that, can you please play a video of Koeberg nuclear power plant?
Power stations produce electricity, which we use at home and to drive our economy. Today, we're going to the Koeberg nuclear power station near Cape Town for a look at the way that they produce electricity from nuclear power. A power station produces steam, which drives a turbine, which we use at home and to drive the generator. Today, we're going to the Koeberg nuclear power station near Cape Town for a look at the way that they produce electricity from nuclear power. A power station produces steam, which drives a turbine. Water turbine gets steam that will power the generators. At the Koeberg nuclear power station, there are two huge reactor buildings, each containing a nuclear reactor. Within the reactor core, fuel rod assemblies house uranium that is responsible for the generation of heat. Each fuel rod is filled with uranium-235 pellets. A number of
I don't know what's happening with my plant. A sabotage from renewables people. It's fine. I'm sure you can switch it off. Thank you so much.
For the generator, which generates electricity. There are various types of power stations around.
Filled with water from the sea. Steam is thereby condensed into water, and the water is pumped back to the steam generators for the process to start again. The water that is used to cool the steam at Koeberg is pumped from an intake basin on the Atlantic Ocean. Each pump is able to pump 20 tons of seawater every second into the power station. Rake screens, as well as large rotating drum screens, remove any debris and kelp that can clog the pipes. Station transformers, responsible for stepping up the potential, then increase the electrical output to 400,000 volts before the electricity enters the national grid. So to summarize, water is heated to 320 degrees Celsius in the nuclear reactor. This water heats water in a secondary chamber to boiling point. The steam from the boiling water is used to turn a turbine. The turbine drives a generator which generates 24,000 volts of electricity. Finally, station transformers step up the voltage to 400,000 volts, and this electricity is used in the South African electricity grid. There are 435 nuclear power reactors in operation in 31 countries around the world. Construction of the Koeberg power station started in 1976, and the electricity output from the power station was synchronized to the national grid in 1984. It is currently the only commercial nuclear power station in South Africa and the sole commercial one on the entire African continent.
Another round of applause for the men and women at Koeberg who are doing this incredible work. Ladies and gentlemen, in a continent where around over 600 million people, or approximately 53% of the population, live without access to electricity, the topic of status and value of nuclear energy for Africa is more important. Africa is home to 17% of the world's population, but accounts for just 4% of the global power, the lowest in the world. Around 9 million people in Africa lack access to clean cooking. United Nations predicts that Africa's population would have doubled by 2050, amounting to approximately 2.5 billion, with electricity demand expected to triple by 2040. Without further ado, I'd like to call back on stage our DM to come and do the honors of introducing the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Ambassador Rafael Mariano Grossi, who will enlighten us on the status and value of nuclear energy for Africa.
Thank you, everybody. It is a great privilege and honor to get to introduce the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Mr. Rafael Grossi. He's had a long history with the IAEA, having started there as a Deputy Director General from 2010 to 2013. He then left for a very short period where he served as the Argentine ambassador to Vienna, where he was also the representative of Argentina to the IAEA. And he then subsequently was appointed as the Director General on the 3rd of December 2019, where he has served his 4-year term. He has been reappointed to serve another 4-year term, commencing on the 3rd of December 2023. He has a number of awards and honors, and I'm going to just share some of those with you. He's an international gender champion, promoting gender in the nuclear industry. I think something that we can all get behind and support. He's also holds a PhD in international relations, international history and politics from the University of Geneva, the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies, from which he's also received a master's degree. He began his academic journey at the Political Catholic University of Argentina and at the Diplomatic Academy of Argentina. Mr. Grossi has received numerous national awards, including Brazil's Order of Naval Merit, the National Medal on the occasion of the 30th anniversary of the independence of Kazakhstan, the Grand Decoration of Honor in Gold with sash for service to the Republic of Austria, and the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic and the Grand Cruz de la Orden de San Carlos of Colombia. I didn't practice that enough. His honorary degrees and academic distinctions include the Political Catholic University of Argentina's International Chair for Sustainable Development, Common Good and Peace, an honorary doctorate in law from the University of Buenos Aires, an honorary degree in nuclear engineering from Polytechnic University of Milan, and an honorary doctorate in global studies from Busan University of Foreign Studies. I have no doubt that you all agree with me that this man is well equipped to lead us globally in the nuclear space. So it is my great honor and great privilege to introduce you to Mr. Rafael Grossi. Thank you.
Ambassador Grossi?
Ambassador Grossi?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Please
we
go
can.
ahead.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, dear friends. It is a great pleasure, indeed an honor for me to be part of this very important nuclear and energy conference in South Africa, organized by the Ministry of Electricity and Energy, which is, of course, an event that appears to me as of eminent logic, given the juncture at which we are all, internationally and also, of course, in South Africa and in Africa. And I see that the main theme around which we are gathered today has to do precisely with the status and the value of nuclear energy for Africa. I think that to understand this and to situate ourselves correctly in this moment, we need to take a wider look at what is happening in general in the world, also in Africa, and in order to try to determine the feasibility, the possibility, and the contribution that nuclear energy can make at this moment in African and South African in particular development, given the current circumstances. We all know that energy security, energy needs are at the basis of everything, of every problem, societal problem that we are facing. It is obvious that without an adequate answer to the energy problems that we are facing in the continent and in the world, any serious prospect for economic development would, of course, be rather limited. We see also that there is a need to contrast these evident economic needs with the equally important situation we have in terms of other challenges that we are facing globally, also in Africa, in terms of climate change, for example, and how we move forward economically in a way that does not cause any harm environmentally or otherwise. This is why we have been seeing an increased, rather marked increased interest in nuclear energy, which for some time, I would say for a few decades already, was statistically speaking in a relative stability, if not in decline, which was something that could be considered as a result of a number of issues, financing issues, and also the global debates or the debates that were triggered by circumstances, for example, like the accident in the Soviet Union in Chernobyl, or what happened later on in Fukushima in Japan, that made many be skeptical or to put the question about the sustainability of nuclear energy or even its advisability as a safe, secure, sustainable source of energy. Of course, these debates, which were logical to a certain extent, are now part of the past. We have seen that the nuclear sector has shown enormous, I would say, resilience. The nuclear safety culture, the nuclear safety structures, frameworks, normative parameters have been strengthened in no small measure because of the efforts of institutions like the IAEA, of course, together with their member states. And so when confronted with the need to tend to these equally important goals of moving forward, bringing our people and our populations out of poverty and out of the needs that we see so clearly in Africa, in Latin America, where I come from, and also to sustain economic growth in industrialized countries, nuclear has regained this interest because it is clearly a source of energy which has very limited, almost no carbon dioxide emissions, because it's a source of energy that ensures a dispatchable and very reliable source of energy in any energy mix. We at the IAEA, and in general, I would say, in the nuclear community, we are firm supporters of renewable energies. And I want to say it very, very clearly, because we do not harbor any competitive or exclusive approaches to energy. What we need is intelligent choices, intelligent alternatives to be made available for countries, and especially low and middle income countries. We have seen over the past few years a marked, very impressive, I would say, increase in the proportion of renewable energies in the world in general, also in Africa. And we believe that this process, which is, of course, most probably going to continue over the next few decades, we believe is not mutually exclusive with other forms of energy, in particular nuclear energy, which we think is particularly useful and even compatible with sources of energy like renewables, wind, solar, and others, which are intrinsically intermittent and may require what we call base load, a good proportion of base load energy, which may bring to the grids the necessary stability in order to avoid disruptions, in order to ensure this continuity, which is at the end of the day indispensable. So we have seen that this trend has manifested itself at the, I would say, global debates. For example, in the climate change discussions that we have periodically, yearly, this famous conference of the parties, the COPs, they're called the COPs, last of which took place in Dubai last year, and the next one is going to be taking place in Azerbaijan, in Baku, in a couple of months from now. Nuclear energy has moved from a notable absent to one being recognized as an energy that needs to be accelerated. And this is very important because this is not the voice of a few countries or a sector of a region. This reflects the global consensus that nuclear energy, together with other carbon-free sources of energy, should be accelerated, which is quite a dramatic change from the times where nuclear energy was not even being mentioned. And the reason for this is not the fact that there has been some revolutionary change, intellectual change in people, is that there is a realization. I always like to talk about a return to realism. Some people say there's a nuclear renaissance. No, I don't think so. I think there is a return to realism. There is a return to a realization that we do have in many countries, we do have this instrument already there, which is so important, globally speaking. But still, we need to recognize that nuclear energy is but a relatively small portion of the global supply. It's around 10–12% of the electricity being produced. But a number of countries, in particular in Dubai, last year, agreed that their effort in terms of nuclear energy should be at least triple, which is, you will admit, a rather ambitious goal that these countries have set to themselves. We don't know whether this could be realized or not. It is possible, but more importantly, apart from if it's going to be double or triple or whatever it will be, this indicates a political direction. This indicates that there is a conviction there that, to put it very simple, without nuclear, we are not going to make it for we are not going to achieve a decarbonized, stable energy mix in the future. But of course, we are in South Africa today, and we need to think about the needs of developing countries and how we can make this nuclear energy also available for middle income and low income countries. This is not a technology which should be restricted to a certain group of countries, to a minority of countries. And in this, I think, again, the example of South Africa is excellent. South Africa, at the moment at least, is the only country in the continent that has operating nuclear power plants. Two of them in Koeberg. My South African friends there from the sector will recognize this. And we are aware and we recognize and support the current process in South Africa to try to move into an enlargement of the proportion of nuclear energy into the national grid. Of course, this is a discussion for South Africans to have, how to do it, when to do it, in what way to do it. But I want to say that we are very happy to see that apart from South Africa, which can be considered, and it is, a mature nuclear operator, we are also, from the IAEA, working with a number of countries that also want to approach nuclear energy and to start working in nuclear energy. I would like to mention in the first place Egypt, in the other extreme of the continent, in the north of Africa, where already the country has embarked in a very important process. They are building 4 nuclear power plants. So in a few years, we are going to have 2 major nations in the continent, in the 2 extremes, the Republic of South Africa and Egypt, that are going to be benefiting from a good proportion of nuclear energy in the national grid. But they are not the only ones, I want to say. And we are working with other countries. I want to mention a few that are in different stages of their path towards nuclear. Algeria, Nigeria, Sudan, Ethiopia, Tunisia, Ghana, Uganda, Morocco, Kenya, Niger, Zambia. All of these countries, and I might need longer than it could be possible in the context of our conference today to get into the details of what each and every of these African nations are doing, but all of them have started processes, in some cases much closer to a decision being taken, but in any case actively working with the IAEA in order to take informed decisions, number one, to reinforce their national workforce and the capacity building which is needed for or to have a successful national nuclear program. And this I say with great hope, because I am a firm believer of the benefits that nuclear energy can bring to middle and even small-sized economies in the continent. And in this regard, I want to mention the very interesting possibility derived from new developments in nuclear energy, like small and modular reactors. As you know, the typical nuclear power plants are quite important in size, also in capital investment, which make them sometimes prospects that can be considered as rather challenging for medium-sized and small economies. What is very interesting is that the industry is moving into what is called small and modular type of reactors. These are reactors that are, of course, cheaper and smaller, as the name says, modular in the sense that can be assembled in modules of lesser capacity or power according to the needs of the national grid which they are supposed to be serving. And several of the countries that I was mentioning are in Africa are in particular interested in this, as we call it in the jargon, SMR, small modular reactor alternative, which is appearing now in many countries. So as you can see, dear friends, nuclear energy, which is active, present, and growing in the world, can and should also play an important part in the African scene. I should also mention the fact that nuclear energy as an economic activity, as a scientific, technological activity, is particularly apt for countries in their technological and scientific development. And I say this also from the perspective of someone from Argentina, also from a developing country, where nuclear energy has been instrumental in the growth and the development of the technological, or of several technological sectors of the country writ large. And this is the case. This has been the case of South Africa. This has been the case of Brazil. This has also been the case in India and in other countries of the so-called global South, where nuclear energy has played a very important role, even beyond the specifically energy sector. So this is what my message for you is. We are at a very interesting, we are at a very promising juncture in terms of energy worldwide and in Africa. I think South Africa, as the leading country in the continent in terms of operation of nuclear energy, is an example and can also play a very important role in helping others also benefit from nuclear energy. The IAEA will, of course, continue to work with South Africa, with the countries in the continent, providing the services, providing the support, providing the technical advice and capacity building service and help, which is indispensable so that we can all benefit from this force for good, which is nuclear. With that, let me wish you an excellent nuclear energy conference. I think this initiative of the Ministry of Energy of South Africa is an excellent one. I only wish I could have been there. As you know, at the moment today, and I am here with my good friend, the ambassador of South Africa, Ambassador Molikane, who has agreed to join me here for this occasion. We both have to attend the meeting of the Board of Governors of the IAEA, which is the executive body of this agency. Otherwise, I would have loved, and I hope in the not too distant future, I will have an opportunity to come to South Africa to meet with my many friends there and to continue this journey, which is a journey for development, which is a journey for a complete emancipation and development of the great nations in Africa. I thank you very much for this great opportunity for addressing you, and I will, of course, be looking forward for the conclusions of your very important meeting. I thank you very much, and I wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Grossi, for gracing us with your presence today. We feel it, even though you are online. Thank you. Ambassador just taught me a new term. I'm one of the people who always say we have a global nuclear renaissance. But today I learned that it's not that. Actually, it's return to realization. So I'm going to use that from now on. Last month, the nuclear industry experienced another setback, where the Gazette for Section 34 determination was withdrawn by our minister. But the minister took us into confidence and said that the process will be restarted soon and it will be done properly this time. So, Minister, as the self-appointed spokesperson of the nuclear industry, I say in you we trust. I look forward to your address today. Once again, I'm going to call back on stage. Oh, okay. All right, Minister, please give him a round of applause as he walks.
Thank you very much, Princess. Good morning to Deputy Minister, Ms. Samantha Graham Murray, the Director General of the IAEA, Ambassador Rafael Mariano Grossi, just to thank him immensely for having made time out of his busy schedule. As he has indicated, they are preparing for the meeting of the Board of Directors, and we will be joining them next week in Vienna. And also our esteemed Ambassador, Excellency Rapu Molekane, members of the Portfolio Committee, members of Parliament here present. I'm very happy that the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Energy and Electricity, Ms. Mvana, also took time to join us here today. I think what that does is just to accentuate the importance of the conversation we're having today and how we want to position nuclear going into the future as part of the South African energy mix. And I'll say a few things about that. The chairpersons and CEOs of the SOEs, especially those in the stable of energy and electricity, the captains of industry, organized labor, academicians, academics, intellectuals, members of the media, good morning to everyone. I thought that it would be particularly helpful for me just to journey you how we have arrived here. So I've lamented the fact that there is no honest attempt for us to engage and confront the political economy of energy and also its geopolitical manifestations. So we're not in the business of just providing megawatts. We're in the business of transforming the economy, ensuring that there's universal access, improving the dignity of our people, but also making it possible for South Africa to realize her potential going into the future. We also have an ambition of achieving conditions of energy security so that we are able to protect and advance our sovereign interest. So what I've lamented is the fact that you'd have conversations around various technologies, various fuel sources that are meant to power an economy, including the South African economy. So I've been invited on multiple occasions to go and attend conferences, for an example, the mining summit. So they'll tell you the contribution of coal towards energy generation. And then you have the renewable energy complex also having conversations about the future of that technology. The fact that wind and PV is on the ascendancy, and in fact is going to be an indispensable feature of the energy mix going into the future. And of course, the contribution of hydro, we have benefited immensely as a country, Kahora Baza. It has always been part of the energy mix in the country. And then there's very little conversations about nuclear. And I was making the point, where are the nuclear people? Because we've got a sterling record, 76 years of contribution to the science and the technology, at least to the extent that nuclear is responsible for power or the uses of nuclear for purposes of electrification. And I've come to realize that a few things are present. The first one is that a typical nuclear scientist will have the features of Einstein. I'm a very big fan of Einstein. Old, gray-haired, exceptionally intelligent, lacking social skills, and all they do, they simply hide themselves, put themselves in a corner there. And they are not the people who are confrontational because they place a great reliance on science. So they'll release paper after paper. But we have entered an arena and a period in this evolving energy complex of lobbyists, of those who appropriate to themselves the know-how of a technology, and they've got the capacity and the potential to soil, undermine, and discredit a technology, not supported by science and evidence. But that typical nuclear scientist will refuse to be dragged into the mud, because those who are in the mud, they've got the capacity to survive in the mud. So it is in your interest not to be drawn into the mud. But then there's a price you are going to pay. What is that price? Is that nuclear as a form of technology, a source of energy generation in the country, is on the back foot. So essentially we are on the retreat because we are unable to enter the public domain and have these conversations. And I had said myself and Deputy Minister Samantha Gray